Welcome back everyone, and it's time to go balls deep! Today we're going to be going over Black Clover's timeline, starting from the very beginning of the series, way before the story even technically starts. We will uncover the secrets behind many big questions in our community, such as who are the ancient elves, humans, and dwarves. I will also be covering more history about Lucifer that resides in hell with the other devils. What's his backstory and what the hell is going on with his plan? So I promise you, if you stick around to the end of this video, it will blow your mind. Now, if you didn't know, the timeline in Black Clover technically begins 1200 years ago, as this is the furthest date we have knowledge of so far in the manga. The first Heart Queen was 1200 years ago. According to Garja in chapter 225, the knowledge of the Heart Queen has been passed down through Udin since 1200 years ago, meaning that the first Heart Queen officially got the water spirit to protect the Heart Kingdom for the coming years even to this day. This establishes to us that the first Heart Queen became the leader of the country 1200 years ago, and the kingdom we see now was founded at that time, right?
No!
So the knowledge we saw Lolopechika have in the library has been passed down since then. Now you're probably wondering, why am I talking about the timeline? Well, just give me some time, right? I did my balls deep. You're going a bit deep here. I can't keep up. Well, this is why it's so important to hit the notification bell on our channel and like the video so that YouTube keeps up with you in the recommended, and so that we are all on the same page as a community. Just stay with me here. I'm explaining the timeline and then everything will make sense by the end of the video.
Of course!
So we all have to remember that one piece of knowledge we learned was the previous devil invasion. Devils were released into the world from 800 to 1200 years ago because it was in one of the books the current Heart Queen Lolopechika had read in chapter 252. Now you're probably wondering, why are we saying the devil invasion was at least 800 years ago, anime balls deep? Well, firstly, didn't you know? What kind of question is that? Balls deep! Prediction magic is just way too powerful. But seriously, logically speaking, it had to be around this long ago, because how else do you expect 90% of humanity to be annihilated and to recover in such a short period of time? The ancient races and queen likely suffered huge losses for her to declare in the book that 90% of humanity perished. Otherwise, why is she writing it down for the future queens to have knowledge of? They either experienced the loss or had a spy like Narc to gain this information per se, but we cannot confirm this yet. Now moving on, around 750 years ago or so, after the invasion was stopped and Hell's Gate was closed, this is when the Clover Kingdom was founded. The evidence to prove this idea is back in the 500-year-old flashback. We had the Silver Million family, which is the ancestors to the Silver and Vermilion family, who are Noelle and Mimosa's respective families. But also keep in mind, at the time, they were the only royal family from what we have seen so far. This means that the royal family tree has not been spread out far enough to have several branches of it yet, which means that Lumiere's generation has to be one of the earlier ones. This makes it consistent with the idea that the Clover Kingdom was most likely founded after the devil invasion as a means to settle after such a huge portion of the human race was destroyed. Even more evidence to support the idea that the Clover Kingdom was founded around 750 years ago is the fact that we have barely seen any development of the kingdom since 500 years ago, meaning it probably is still relatively young as opposed to the Heart Kingdom's 1200 years. Also, Augustus Kira Clover is the current king of the Clover Kingdom out of the 13 kings according to chapter 107. So if we think about the average lifespan of a human, which is 79 years, things may not add up, but you have to remember that this is taking place in the Middle Ages. Although there is healing magic, we have not seen any particular power being able to heal diseases, only physical wounds, and we also don't know of previous battles. Realistically speaking, from the evidence that we have seen, kings most likely wouldn't be that physically active, so they would probably live around 60 years with the support of magic. Multiplying 60 by 13 gets to 780 years, which is really close to the estimated year we just gave you. It is probably at this point that the monarchy of the Clover Kingdom started. This makes the event of the Clover Kingdom's foundation coming only a couple of centuries earlier than the elf massacre, as these humans would have surely been jealous of the elves that were left behind from the War of the Devils. These ancient elves that we saw, such as Licht and the others 500 years ago and beyond, we were told that they were blessed by mana and were worshipped according to the chapters, meaning that knowledge was surely lost between the very ancient humans, elves and dwarves that united to defeat the previous devil invasion. We can prove this fact with Lumiere. This is because 500 years ago in our timeline of Black Clover, he states in chapter 204 that he had only read about devils from a history book, and logically speaking, the only possible way for the devils to be recorded is through the previous devil invasion, right?
No!
As devils cannot normally appear in this world according to what Dorothy says in chapter 222. This history book that Lumiere read was most likely created by ancient humans who fought in the war against devils. But since peace had occurred, the royalty and foundation of the Clover Kingdom would make them only care about self-interest, as we saw this evident through them being manipulated by the devil Zagreid so easily. Are you guys still with me? Are you following this? I hope I'm making sense. I know there's a couple of you out there there's a couple of you out there that have are lost, right?
I haven't a clue what's going on here, but I'll act like I do.
So if you were listening, you just heard me mention ancient dwarves, right? We know dwarves exist through Yami. Well, let's explain how ancient elves, humans and dwarves, or even other races must have united to defeat the ancient devils. You have to be asking yourself, how the hell is Lucifer locked up in the first place? Why is the Shadow Palace located in the Clover Kingdom, right? There are significant clues for this. Remember how Mimosa and the ancient elf inside Rill mentioned in chapter 194 that Yami is a half dwarf? Well, how can an ancient elf and a modern day human have the same consistent information? Mimosa says she heard of dwarves through old tales that an elderly manservant told her about. Dwarves were another race separate from the elves who lived in the distant past and had unique skills. This basically means that for ancient elves and a modern day human to have the same consistent information, an event must have occurred in the past that will let them know of their existence. At one point, the elf in Rill says that he heard if two races combine together, that means hybrid can have two types of magic. This means that dwarves, elves and humans at one point were in contact with one another and they lived in harmony. I mean, come on guys, how the hell are we gonna explain Yami is half dwarf? Clearly someone smashed a dwarf, it's self-explanatory.
Damn, boy, he's thick! Boy! That's a thick-ass boy!
Furthermore, Tabata has clearly stated in interviews that he is inspired from fantasy stories such as Lord of the Rings. Guess what the story of Lord of the Rings involves? It's about hobbits, wizards, dwarves, elves and humans working together to defeat a common enemy, Saruman, who has practically released hell on earth. This shit just adds up like a puzzle, bruh. For example, we know Tabata is heavily inspired from mythical races in Norse mythology. We see multiple races implemented in the manga. So far we have humans, elves, dwarves, devils, dark elves, fairies, mermaids and dryads. So the next question is, what are dwarves? Well, the general description you can find of them in mythology is the following. Dwarves live deep beneath the mountains and have mined themselves vast strongholds and dungeons beneath mountain peaks. Dwarves are immensely strong and resilient. They have broad hands and feet. Dwarves respect the following things: age, wealth and skill. Dwarves favor axes as a weapon, but compared with other races, dwarves have embraced technology and use a variety of weapons that are more advanced than the other ancient races. Dwarves are remarkable at craftsmanship in their weaponry. This gives us an idea of where the concept of Licht swords also came from. As a community, we are all scratching our heads on why are they specifically called the Demon Slayer sword, Demon Destroyer sword and Demon Dweller sword. That seems pretty specific, right? And guess what? The anti-magic demon hates the devils and went into the grimoire that could help accomplish his goals of killing them.
This big brain time.
We know Licht and the ancient elves had knowledge of the existence of devils before the modern humans did in the arc against Zagrid, and it's likely that this knowledge also got passed down from the previous devil invasion. If the elves do have a longer lifespan as they traditionally do in other media, it would explain why such ancient information is not as equally as forgotten compared to human beings. If the elves do have a longer lifespan as they traditionally do in other media and the mythological stories, it would explain why such ancient information is not as equally as forgotten compared to the human race. However, we don't know specifically how long elves can live for in Black Clover. It could be 100 years or longer, but this practically makes sense that these swords were specifically created and designed due to the knowledge of the previous devil invasion of the past. It could be possible that ancient dwarves and humans worked with the elves in their unification to harness their power that can withhold their mana that they are blessed with. Elves have enough mana and power to actually destroy devils in one attack. Just look at how we witnessed Licht try to do this so easily against Zagrid. This all makes sense because the Harqueen mentioned, remember in chapter 228, that the Clover Kingdom's magic is innovated due to deviating from natural magic. She states the Clover Kingdom has created types of magic that are not natural, such as chain and steel and the eccentric spatial magic. As a result, some irregular arcane users who were born in that environment have the potential to defeat a devil. So this proves once again that the sword magic Licht has could be inherited from his ancestors that used their magic in such a manner that innovated it into sword magic to defeat the devils, as she mentioned. We know dwarves are good blacksmiths and are good at making technology and weaponry, and human beings have the ideas. So the three races combined, this all makes sense. So if I've blown your mind so far, if you got into this point of the video, I'd appreciate if you can help me, man. Please smash the like button if you want more content like this. Let's try to get this as high as possible. I'm gonna earn 20,000 this time round. I want all you Black Clover fans to support this channel. And here's another shout out to everyone that bought the Asta x Liebe merch. Oh my god, so many of you guys are supporting us. I can't believe it. I'm dumbfounded. I'm flabbergasted. Look at these big words I'm using. Flabbergasted, mate. Shout out to all of you. The discount will be in the pinned comment below if you want to buy it and get a shout out in the next video, guys. Now again, if you were listening to everything that I have been saying and how I described the dwarves, we just mentioned how they live in mountains and how they craft and how they also love wealth. Well, another clue of their past is the dungeons that were introduced to us early in Black Clover. In chapter 11, a dungeon has been described by mages as an ancient tomb that was established a long time ago. Dungeons usually house countless treasures which were left by the people who built them. These dungeons probably also served as war bunkers during the devil invasion when the humans and the other races were allied. This also explains why there are so many magical artifacts orientated around combat, so many traps, and most importantly, the demon dweller sword was located in the dungeon. This straight out points towards the ancient races were in contact with the elves and probably even allied at the time. And since 90% of humanity could have died, it explains why there are no records about the dungeon and the modern day humans don't know much about it. Lastly, another clue to this grand analysis and balls deep prediction magic is the Shadow Palace. The Shadow Palace is another piece of evidence that humans, elves, and dwarves worked together in the past. If you can remember, in chapter 182, it is literally explained to us that the ancient elves allowed humans to safeguard the magical space, but only the 10 apostles of Sephira can open it. This clearly means that the ancient races, they were cool with each other and understood that their deal with one another was to stop a future devil invasion from occurring once again. We also know for a fact that the 10 apostles of Sephira are the elves that have divine revelation from God whom they worship. This is once again foreshadowed through the Dryad race, the new race that was introduced in chapter 265, with Patri explaining to Noelle how they knew to save her in the Oracle. The Shadow Palace is a large black structure shaped like a castle. This magical space serves as a gateway from the realm of the living to the realm of the dead. It exists within the Clover Castle, the capital of the Clover Kingdom. This is where the foundation of the Clover Kingdom must have taken place, since the Shadow Palace would be located there due to their agreement and deal. It all makes sense, right? Now you're probably wondering by the end of this video if Anime Balls Deep's analysis is all true because he's Tabata's friend, right? Why didn't Lucifer invade a lot faster and try again? Well, the answer to this question is because, just as Dante explained, to unlock the gate of hell there needs to be an age where two specific mages exist, one with world tree magic that creates the gate and one with dark magic user that can slice it open for Lucifer to be released. Lucifer tried to use Liebe, Asta's adopted brother, in chapter 268 to come into this world physically, but Asta's mother Lisita stopped him from doing so because she had a unique body that drained his mana from doing so. So we have to note that Liebe mentioned in chapter 268 that Lucifer, he's only one of the highest ranked demons, not the highest. So that means that there is a possibility of devils being just as strong as him in the past, present or future. Basically, there are many high-ranked super powerful demons. This then makes sense that in the past, a previous Heart Queen must have encountered a high-ranked devil like Lucifer that caused the devil invasion to occur. Lucifer must be following the footsteps after making the Dark Triad conduct the research on how to unlock the Tree of Death using two types of unique magic. For the devil's plan to work like it did last time 800 or so years ago, two specific mages were abused in the same sort of way. This chance presented itself to Lucifer recently after failing to take Liebe. He promised that he will enact another plan or another way to enter the human realm. We know the chance for Lucifer to enact a plan came about when in chapter 47, Yami from Japan, he somehow got isekai'd. One day while Yami was fishing by himself, Yami shipwrecks and washes ashore in the Clover Kingdom. When we look at chapter 47, Yami looks around 12 years old. Currently he is 28, so the chronological timeline makes sense that Yami must have came to the Clover Kingdom around the time Lucifer failed to take on Liebe, and then he made the promise to enact a plan to come to the human realm. Every single character's story is interconnected, and I wouldn't be surprised that somehow Lucifer is linked to Yami in some sort of way by toying with something that caused him to be isekai'd from Japan. This also links to William Vengeance, who has the other type of magic for the Tree of Death. We just found out that Lucifer has the power to take over any other devil of a lower rank and toy with humans when he is bored. He is actively searching for a way to escape. Well, William Vengeance was born as the illegitimate child to a noble and viewed as a cursed child due to him being born with a scar that covers half of his face. The curse that he has is actually linked to devils because this is the same marking that Zagreus gave to Yami when he used his otherworldly magic. Also, Charlotte said that she had a curse that was otherworldly caused by a devil as well. So William definitely got this mark as a child because he was special from the very beginning. As we know, your soul is connected to your grimoire. He had the final piece of the puzzle, which is world tree magic, that will help unlock Lucifer, and this cannot be all a coincidence. I think Tabata has connected everything for a reason. Now that's my bold deep prediction magic. Tabata lately, he's been watching the videos, he's like, fam, bro, you're ghostwriting the fucking show and you keep spoiling it and I'm gonna change the chapters. That's what he said. So hopefully this all made sense to you, and I think at least 50% of the shit I said in this video is gonna come true because all of the pieces of the puzzle have been mapped out to go into fruition for the future of Black Clover. So guys, definitely smash the like button, join the Discord, join the Twitter, Instagram, buy the merch. Thank you for watching till the end, and I'll see you guys next time.